After a massive first season that spanned decades and a lot of events, how was it to make an even bigger but also better second season?
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, season one was very difficult to structure because we were covering really what's really 30 years of history. We condensed into 20 years to make it so that we didn't have to recast everybody. But it was a big narrative puzzle to have to put together to try to tell this story that moved you through the events of the history, but hopefully did it in a dynamic and interesting way, and didn't disorient people more than necessary, because we knew we were going to recast the young main characters right at the middle of the season. But I mean, to the audience's great credit, they came, they showed up, they hung in, they stayed with us. I mean, audiences are very sophisticated. If you challenge them, they will rise to the occasion. I think people who engage with entertainment, particularly this kind of entertainment, do want a non-passive experience. They do want to have to engage and puzzle out and think about the show. And I think that's one of the advantages of this show, at least where I am in the world. I don't know how it is in Spain, but it airs week to week. And I think it's that way everywhere. And I think that week of time is really important to be able to turn the episode over in your head and consider it and talk to other people that have watched it the way we used to forever and ever. This is serialized entertainment making. So I think going into season 2, the reward for everybody is, well, you engaged with, you had your vegetables, and now we get to have maybe not dessert, maybe a more exciting main course, and the stakes have gone up. Everything is, I think the pace is much faster, and we're paying off on we pick up right where we left off a couple days after the end of season 1, and we're paying off all those great character dynamics that we set up in season 1. But the stakes are higher because now it's about, well, who's going to support Rhaenyra and who's going to support Aegon, and how many dragons do they have, and are these big armies going to come and support them, or are they going to hide because they're afraid of getting burned by a dragon? I mean, it's really whereas season 1 was about marriage proposals and inheritances, this is about the Game of Thrones, the life and death of a civil war.
And as a writer and also the showrunner, like you said, you had to condense many decades in just 10 hours in the last season, the first season. In this season, or in the next seasons, not only in this one, you have to cover few years than what you did before.
Yeah.
So how has that changed your focus your approach as a showrunner to the story now that you have many years to cover?
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's easier because every season presents its own challenge, but it's definitely it makes for a more kind of traditional television pace, because you can have a cliffhanger at the end of an episode and pick up where you left off in the following. Whereas season 1, where each episode was until the very end was kind of its own discrete timeline, so you had to completely tell that story, finish it, and then the next episode we would start someplace new and meet new challenges and problems. So it makes for a much, I think, faster paced story. I mean, the season very much has the feeling of a ball rolling down a hill, or a train, coming out of the tunnel. But the world has grown, so there are more characters, there are more places to go. It's more diffuse, so characters aren't all under the same roof they were in season 1. So there are challenges that come along with that, and keeping these stories alive. And even though Alicent and Rhaenyra are not together, finding ways to connect their stories in a way that feels like you're still framing the episode around these two women. So when you see Alicent, when you see Rhaenyra mourning her children at the end of episode 1, or mourning Lucerys at the end of episode 1, and his funeral, you see Alicent at the same time at the sept lighting candles, and you connect them through those beautiful edits, connecting the fire to the fire. And even though Alicent and Rhaenyra are in 2 separate places, and they're not necessarily aware of what the other one is going through, we as the audience see them connected. So I think those are the things and it's beautiful and fun and cinematic, but those are the challenges I think present in season 2, is how do you connect these kind of disparate storylines.
Like you're saying, the characters are more scattered in this season. We get to see more places than we did in season 1. So do you think that those Game of Thrones fans, that maybe in the first season it was more House of the Dragon, it had its own tone, they are going to feel familiar to what Game of Thrones was, because there is a lot of plots at the same time in different places?
Yeah, I mean, this is more. I would say this will feel like a more kind of traditional season of Game of Thrones. You have multiple characters who are spread all over the world, and they're on their own adventures. And sometimes those adventures loop back together and intersect. Sometimes characters who have never intersected now intersect with each other, and that is the fun and reward, I think, of telling a Game of Thrones season. You separate beloved characters, that they go through adventures and changes in lives and deaths, and then they come back together, changed and different, and we get to see how those dynamics play out on the characters.
And when you faced the Westeros map and you knew that you had to adapt the full Dance of the Dragons, how was the collaboration process with George? Did he give you any advice to do it?
I like that, the Westeros mob. Is that what they're? Is that? Do they have an official?
I imagine you like that, like
official title. Do they have flags and meeting halls? Yeah, look, I mean, it's a very opinionated and very passionate fan base, which I'm very grateful for. But look, it is very difficult to please everybody all the time. So the approach that I and we have always taken in the show is that I, as the guy at the top of this crazy pyramid, I'm a huge fan of the show. So and I came to this show 6 years ago, trying to make the successor show to Game of Thrones that I was excited about as a fan. And I think whenever I get lost or too many people, opinions, whatever, pulling me in different directions, I always try to find my compass heading through that. Is like, what is the show that I wanted to see as a fan? Yeah. And I have a wonderful team around me, other writers and filmmakers, and the crew in the show that they're all fans of it as well, because everybody who makes the show lives in it, for better or worse. So yeah, I mean, it can be a challenge finding your path through it, but I think I've spent enough time now in Westeros that I'm pretty confident about finding my way around.
But is George kind of a beacon for you, or is just?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, he was very involved, certainly at the beginning, more at the beginning of the series. He's just very busy. He has hands in a lot of things, writing multiple books. But we certainly keep him involved and informed as to what's going on, and he sees everything as we write it and shoot it and make it.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Great.
Have a nice day.
Nice to meet you.
See you next season.
Okay, very good. Bye. I'll be here.